First of all, I'd like to say thank you to the parents for allowing me to work with your students on this trip, and it has been a joy to work with them. And thank you for giving me that privilege to just to pour into them and be able to minister to them as they minister to the families in Joplin. And our goal for this trip was to represent Jesus as we encountered and helped families in Joplin. I couldn't have asked for a better group to go with. This group was a great group to work with. They did a fantastic job on the work site. As you will see in the slideshow in a few minutes, these students worked very hard. And not only did they work very hard, they carried with them a spirit of joy and laughter and love and made everything a celebration. So they were able to not only minister to the home, but minister to the neighborhood and be a light in that neighborhood. And you'll see that in some of the pictures that there's a lot of laughing and a lot of playing, but a lot of hard work. And what we did down there is we worked on a house that was over 100 years old. It had sustained wind and hail damage during the storm. And the wind had shifted the house about 1.5 inches to 2 inches on its foundation. And we put up new siding. We did some caulking. We scraped and painted and primed and painted. We painted the front porch and the trim around windows and the doors. Our week looked like this. We went down there on July 21st. We got there late, and we stayed at a church overnight. Joplin Family Worship Center is where we stayed the first night we were down there. And we went to church there on Sunday. And then we headed to Carthage, Missouri, which is where we stayed for the remainder of the week at First Presbyterian Church in Carthage. Our work week started on Monday. And it went through Thursday. We arrived on the work site in between 9 and 10 every day. Monday and Tuesday, we had spent some time at a place called The Bridge, which you'll hear, I'm sure, either from one of the students right now or in the video later. The Bridge is a teen center, and we spent Monday and Tuesday morning there, and they had these prayer cards where we were able to pray over the city of Joplin. And begin our work week and our work days doing that. And before we headed to the work site. On Thursday, we prayed through the community. We did a prayer walk before we began our work that day. We walked through the neighborhood and just engulfed that community in prayer. We were just down the street from the Cunningham Park, I think is the name of it. And that's, if you watched the Extreme Home Makeover, that's the park that they put in. We were just a couple blocks away from that and about a half a mile away from the hospital that was devastated. Every night we had chapel. And after chapel, we had group discussion time. The theme for this week was baggage, getting rid of our baggage. And it was based off of Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 through 3. And the emphasis was recognizing the sin in our lives and throwing off that sin so we can run the race that God has called us to run. I have asked each of the leaders and the students to talk briefly about what had impacted them the most on this trip. And any reflections that they had on Joplin and what God had taught them through this trip. So we'll begin. Say your name to let them know who you are.
My name is Kevin Smith, and I was part of the siding team. And what really impacted me the most on the trip was seeing all the destruction that was down there even after a year of work. And there were still people without homes. What God has been teaching me the most is to be passionate about others and to work in His glory.
My name is Ashley Kent. The trip to Joplin was really good. The team effort did an amazing job, making the trip not just about the physical part of rebuilding, but the spiritual part as well. We spent a large part of the day working on the house we were fixing, but in the hours after that, in showers, which is just a whole nother story, we spent our hours worshiping and opening ourselves up to the Lord and each other with our thoughts and struggles. On the trip, I learned so much, but particularly about knowing when to let things go and to give it all to God. I just want to thank you guys so much for your support with money and prayers for all of us. We really appreciated it.
Hi, I'm Emily Peiskin. And what impacted me most on the trip was seeing the broken down buildings. The hospital, which now looks like a parking garage, hit me the most. It broke my heart to think of all the people who were trapped on the higher levels, people who were hurt or sick and they couldn't make it out alive because they were trapped. What God has shown me on this trip is how He is always there for us. He was there before the tornado, and He'll be here long after. Thank you guys for supporting us, and it was just, I was really appreciated.
Hi, I'm Mackenzie. What impacted me most on this trip was to see all of the people that went through so much pain and suffering, and just to see them getting back on their feet and to see them giving the glory to God, because most of them lost everything. What God has taught me on this trip is that even when it feels like no one is there and my world is falling apart, just like the buildings in Joplin, that He's there for me just like He was there for them.
Hi, my name is Ben Fernland, and I had the opportunity to be a youth leader on this trip. One of the things that impacted me the most, there's kind of a motto that developed out of Joplin, and it's the miracle of the human spirit. And it was very impactful to see a whole community and city rally around each other and just to carry the spirit of hope and that things will be better someday and we're going to rebuild. I think what God taught me on this trip was how to truly be a leader. This was the first missions trip in which I've been a leader. I've looked at it from the student side a couple times. So I think God was teaching me how to be able to serve these guys in the best way that I could.
Hi, I'm Aaron Peiskin. And I think what impacted me the most was like the eyewitness accounts of all the angels like protecting the people in the tornado. You know, I think what God taught me was thankfulness for like the stuff that I have.
Hi, my name is Josh Johnson, and what impacted me most on the trip was the size of the tornado, because it moved a whole hospital 4 inches. That's big. And what God taught me was teamwork. Usually I'm the type of person that can do everything by himself. Well, I try to, but on here, God taught me to help others and rely on them.
Hi, I'm Nicole. And what hit me the most was the amount of reminders that they still have in Joplin. When we went to church there that Sunday, they talked about it constantly, and it's been a year. And just everywhere you go, there is constant reminders of the devastation there. The neighborhood that we were in was not a privileged area at all, and it was 1 block away from a neighborhood that completely got wiped out. There was no houses a block up from us. So that's just a constant reminder for them. Everywhere we went, I don't know if it was what we were wearing that kind of tipped them off that we were there to help rebuild, but people were so thankful for us being there. And there was actually a mailman that came into the neighborhood we were working in, and he stopped and thanked us, and he would talk to us every day. And he said, you know, all these groups, you look around, they're all church groups just like yours. And there was. We could look up and down the street, and as we're driving around, we saw groups just like us. And he said, you know, it's not the government or FEMA that's rebuilding this town. It's youth groups that are coming in and doing all of this work. So that was really neat. I really appreciated the attitudes of our students. We do have a no complaining policy in our youth group, but we never even had to address that. And I mean, they were uncomfortable. It was really hot. It's about 100 every day. We ate very interesting food. We proved that you can eat expired food and still live. And they never complained. We had such a joyful spirit among these students. It was just amazing. What God taught me, we talked about the baggage, and they talked about how sometimes baggage is things that you pick up along the way that maybe God didn't give you, or maybe things that you just saw that you thought, oh, I need to carry that with me. And yes, that's something I've heard before, but you're never too old to learn that lesson. And maybe sometimes God teaches you a lesson over and over again because you're not quite getting it the way he wants you to the first few times.
Hi, my name is Casey Hullinger, and on this missions trip, I helped paint the front porch of a lady named Denise's house. I tried to help with the siding, but I smashed my thumb a couple too many times and decided that God wanted me to paint instead. On this missions trip, I learned to be grateful for the things that I have, because most of these people weren't expecting the tornado to come and destroy everything that they owned. In chapel, we talked about baggage and things that weigh us down, things like pride, self-image, money, bad relationships, and anything that keeps us from God's best in our lives. One of the verses that really stuck out to me was Hebrews 12:1-2. Therefore, since we have such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who, for the joy set before him, endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat at the right hand of God. Then the speaker told us to think about the one who endured such opposition from sinners, so that we won't be discouraged and we won't give up. At the end of the week, we took little pieces of paper and wrote down what our baggage was and nailed it to a cross. I thought that was really cool because it symbolized us giving our baggage to God. But the speaker also warned us that when you're around a lot of Christians, it's easier to give your baggage to God because everyone else is. But when you get out into the world, it will be hard not to take your baggage back from God because we love our baggage and we get consumed by it and lose sight of God's best for us. I'm going to try not to let that happen to me. When I nailed my baggage to the cross, I made a promise to God and myself that I would not take it back. I am so glad that I went on this trip because I grew closer to God and I have a much deeper relationship with him than when I left. I also want to thank you for your prayers and financial support. Without you, this trip would not have been possible.
Hello, my name is Olivia Wirtz, and at the beginning of this trip, I had no idea what to expect other than we were working on a house and to be prepared to sweat a lot. I shared with you guys at the spaghetti dinner that the last time I went on a missions trip, I didn't feel like I worked hard enough and served the Lord like I would have liked to. Well, this time I most definitely did. With God leading me, I helped put up siding on a lady's house and paint her porch. One thing that really got to me on the trip was seeing God's everlasting love. He showed the people of Joplin, Missouri that even though bad things will happen to them, he will still be there for them and be their shining light in the darkness of despair. God showed me that even though I have made mistakes in the past and will make many more in the future, he will always love me and forgive me. Thank you for the financial help and prayers. It was appreciated very much.
Hi, I'm Brittany Kent. I was one of the counselors asked to go on this missions trip. It was especially special for me to go on this because, as some of you know, our family came from Joplin, Missouri area almost 2 years ago now. So we were up here when the tornado did go through, so we knew a lot of the families affected, a lot of the stories personally. So to be able to go back down there and really work hard to help someone meant a lot to me and I know my daughter. It's been over a year, and there's been so much rebuilding, not only with the physical aspect of the community, but I think they've grown closer as a community. I know the churches have come together. People, just like our youth group, have come and helped, and I think that has brought a spirit into that community that God is really watching over and bringing them together. Another part that I was really blessed to be a part of was what an awesome group of kids that we have here. They were long, hot days. It is hot down there. And they really did not complain. They got up, they worked hard, they played hard. We got a lot accomplished. There's still so much to be done down there. But I feel like the Lord really did bless our work, and I feel privileged to have gotten to know them and to watch them grow spiritually, even though it was a short time. Breaking down those barriers, being tired, and I can't say they were cranky. They really weren't. They were really great. But just God worked through self-comfort zone and do else, and not be thinking yourself, you're hot, you're sweaty, you're tired. It is completely for someone else, and God does work with us spiritually when we do give of ourselves without getting something in return. And I know these kids did that, and I know God did bless them, and I saw them mature in quite a few different ways over this. So thank you so much. I was blessed, and I just couldn't be happier to go with such a great group.
The verse 1 says, everybody needs one to rely on. Everybody's shoulder to cry on. Are you going to lend a hand and assist? I want to send you there. Go. From the old bottom, work is done, I'm going to send you. Go. From the break of the dawn to the age's end, someone's needing a friend, I'm going to send you. Everybody needs somebody for the long ride. Everybody needs somebody coming alongside. Are you going to lend a hand or a fist? I want to send you there. I'm going to send you out one by one. If I need it sung, can you sing it loud? I'm going to 2 by 2.